Aw yeah, time for some Dark Souls. Mother Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder. Wait, what? You guessed right, Chuck's show is lame, and it's being taken over by the Game Grinder. I'm paying him a visit, and decided to help make a cool video where we break down some fascinating ideas buried within the design of the Dark Souls universe. So without further ado, let's get started. Dark Souls presents players with a continuous feeling of wonder about both the meaning and direction they are supposed to discover along their experiences while playing. The game provides players with enough information to explore, advance, and draw independent hypotheses about their experiences. I want to leave the interpretation of the world's stories to its player. The player gets more value from it when they themselves find out hints of plot from items or side characters they encounter in the world. This not only applies to the plot, but also to most situations players will encounter throughout the game, from battling enemies to exploring labyrinthic environments and making sense of the fragmented conversations from NPCs.
You're no jailer, are you?
Freedom in Dark Souls allows players to increase the mastery of their abilities, improve the efficiency of their actions, and explore the meaning behind the elements that are presented to them in the game. This free approach drives players to look for an answer to the following question: is the game so obscure that it suffers from a lack of guidance, or does it simply talk to us in a way that most players are not used to? Along the several Dark Souls games, players will have to face challenging and odd events, but there will be rules that always carry through no matter the situation. As an illustration, we can focus on one of the aspects that the Souls saga is known for, its zone-like open-world distribution of levels. This level design style allows to discover and interact with elements and enemies that you are able to see. This aspect is one of the most consistent rules that From Software obeys through all its games. And that means, if you see something, you can interact with it, even if it has to be in a far-fetched way, like shooting arrows to the tail of a dragon from the distance. Players are able to interact with all the visible elements that appear in the screen. This gives a sense of direction and agency to the overall experience of the game that players can always rely on and use to their advantage. Using this same rule, the game provides players with environmental cues that can serve to telegraph traps, enemy ambushes, or find objects that can be seen in remote locations that the player can expect to reach at a later time.
With an open world laid out in front of the player to explore and interact with, direction ends there. The Souls series provides the means to navigate and explore, but gives no direction or no explanation of any of its mechanics and lore besides the few dialogue interactions between the non-playable characters.
Well, you look reasonably sane.
Whatever the case is, I feel enabling the player to find something new within the game and its world or storyline, or even other things such as a shortcut or a boss weakness, gives very high value to the product thanks to the feeling that it creates among players when they make those discoveries. Dark Souls 3 and the idiom of not judging a book by its cover go hand in hand. This is especially true when it comes to many of the enemy encounters we have during our playthrough of the game. Bosses are massive and menacing, yet some of the largest can be the easiest to defeat. They are victims of their sheer size, making them slow and hulking. Some of the smallest enemies can be the most dangerous. This stands true for some of the NPCs as well. We may encounter a fully armored warrior with a weapon in hand, and we have no indication whether it is in fact an NPC waiting for us to begin a dialogue interaction, or a docile creature waiting for its next target to get close enough. Even our highly desired treasure chests can be misleading, with the dreaded mimic creatures that disguise themselves as chests and come to life when disturbed.
From Software isn't as sadistic as their games sound though. With Dark Souls 3, the player is given opportunity throughout to learn how to best use game mechanics and acclimate to combat with its trial and error approach. As said by Hidetaka Miyazaki in an interview with Wired, classes can drastically impact the overall difficulty of the game. I want players to consider how to complete each stage using each class, utilizing their strengths and weaknesses. At the beginning of the game, enemies are slow and weak, but still fully capable of slaying the protagonist. Progressively, as players venture farther through the areas, the difficulty ramps up, and each encounter is almost a puzzle to be solved. Once determining how to overcome a certain enemy, farther battles are easier to win. But the danger never subsides. Facing enemies carelessly leads to a quick death. Dark Souls gets a lot of credit for its brutal difficulty, but any new skill requires practice and patience. The game requires each encounter to be approached intelligently, and does an excellent job of providing the players to develop all necessary skills, as long as they are willing to learn from the trials and environmental cues that the game provides in each new area.
Dark Souls takes full advantage of its design and visual style to intimidate the player and make the possible seem impossible. It uses this to fill the player with fear, making some of the simplest tasks seem daunting, but with its mechanics and methods of teaching, encouraging the player to rise, pun intended, to the occasion. From large open locations to small rooms packed with detailed elements, Dark Souls utilizes environments to guide the player's attention and movement. Sometimes this effect can be observed as a simple small halo of light behind a stack of piled barrels or boxes, others as a monolithic structure that appears after we climb a hill. Souls games use this visual attraction to trigger the curiosity of players and make them ready to anticipate change. However, most times the upcoming events are hard to fully predict, so players have to be ready for whatever comes their way, be it positive or challenging, and possibly threatening events. Players are also able to follow along many diverse quests that interact with the world of the game. They will find information about quests through interacting with numerous NPCs, and finding and analyzing items placed around several scattered whereabouts. Another element of information that can be useful and misleading at the same time are the messages left by other players, which are depicted as pulsating orange runic text on the ground. So basically, if working on the Usurper of Fire quest, after receiving 5 dark sigils, during the Ithral of Boreal Valley there is a church with a bonfire. Hidden within this church, right by the bonfire, are some statues. A player had written text on the floor that said, "Illusion ahead, try attacking." So I attacked the statues and killed an assassin that was hidden inside of one of them. As he dies, he cried out the name of Yuria at Fire Lake Shrine.
Lady.
So I went there, and she was like, "Peace, I'm out."
There is not, just farewell.
And next time I went there, she had left. No indication about anything. The statue assassin requires no interaction at any point, it's just there, and if you kill it, it ends the quest line. In other instances, messages left by other players can provide critical information about items, enemies, and may provide useful to face upcoming situations.
These cocktail of elements that constitute the guiding and narrative principles presented by the game positions players in a suitable mental state that enacts the practice of challenging interpretation and action execution within the Souls universe. The tension between understanding the guiding cues of the game and leaping to predict circumstances and grasp obscure parts of the plot is what keeps players on edge, engaged, to keep playing and overcome complex endeavors. By doing these, they recreate their own experiences and interpretations of the world they are experiencing and being a part of. As said by Miyazaki, even in terms of perspective of time and when things take place, there is a lot of vagueness. The delivery of the narrative of the Souls series is something that's grabbed the attention of a great deal of players, though in many ways it can also be seen as bold and risky. It requires a lot of thought and is a far cry from the spoon-fed stories of many RPGs. Back to our original question for this video. Is the game so obscure that it suffers from a lack of guidance, or is it simply talking to us in a way to which most players are not used to? In short, we can say both, and neither, and we will be equally correct. As mentioned before, the game is providing players with perspective, direction, and the desire to venture, but at the same time, it leaves room for personal interpretation and execution. The aforementioned are the elements which allow players to express and investigate freely and form the essence of what makes the Dark and Demon Souls games so rewarding and worth analyzing. Hello everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video that the Game Grinder and I just created together. I want to use this opportunity to thank him for all the work he has put into this project. It has been great to work with him and collaborate to create these kinds of videos, and that's what I look to do in the future, to do more collaborations, because this is a great way to work and explore new boundaries within the game community. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if any of you has not yet checked the Game Grinder's YouTube channel, I encourage you to go and do so. He has great videos on reviews, pickups, and general gaming content that I think it's really worth watching if you haven't checked yet. Again, thanks a lot to you at church, and thanks to everyone who's watching. And to everyone, I hope you liked this video, and if so, subscribe, hit the like button, and I hope to see you in the next video of the Tech Files. Have a good one.